Good day everyone, and welcome back to Diary of a Cameraman. One of the episodes we talked about the different parts of a Canon 5D Mark IV camera, where I made us understand how to run the camera, how to put the battery, how to put the card on the camera, and all that basic tools that makes up the camera. If you aren't in the tutorial or you didn't get the video tutorial, I would love you to click the link on my comment sections so you can watch the part 1 of Canon 5D Mark IV camera. Today we are going to continue on the path of Canon 5D Mark IV camera, where I make us understand other features that makes the camera unique and exceptional and an amazing camera that every cinematographer or photographer should afford or should get to have an amazing and incredible pictures and videos. Let's dive into exploring the different parts of Canon 5D Mark IV camera. Okay, then this is the Canon 5D Mark IV camera. It's actually off now. This is the on mode, and this is the off mode. As you can see here, off and on. So the camera is actually on now. This is the screen of the camera. The screen of the camera. Remember, I told you the last time that this is a touchscreen camera. Instead of using your control buttons, you can actually use the touchscreen to control whatever you control. We're going to start first off from this area of the camera. In photography, and every camera we have outside there, we have what's known as the mode of the camera. That is the mode which the cameraman would like to shoot. We have different modes which are going to explore. So this mode are actually set by the cameraman depending on what he or she wants to get. Currently now we are in the manual mode, which is the ML. And to know where you are, you use the dots here. This is a white dot here, and this is an M sign. Shows that we are in the M stands for manual. When we talk about the manual mode, it's a mode of the camera where you can regulate your ISO, your shutter speed, and your aperture. That is a 3 exposure triangles. And you can also see in the screen of the camera is written M, which stands for manual mode. To regulate the ISO of the shot of the camera, looking at the front of the camera here, you see ISO. So when you press the button, it has moved to the ISO. You can regulate it. You can increase the ISO or you can reduce the ISO. Then you can go back. Then the aperture. This is the aperture. The F stands for aperture. So you can either increase or decrease the aperture. As you can see, as I'm moving these nails, I'm increasing my aperture and I'm reducing my aperture. That is f6.3 now. Then when you want to deal with the shutter speed, then regulating the shutter speed, you tap here and you tap here. You can increase it or you can reduce it. All depends on what you actually want to get as a photographer or as a cinematographer. Then we have the AV. As you can see, the screen has changed to AV. In this mode of the camera, you can only regulate your ISO and your aperture rate. As you can see here, the shutter speed column is blank because it has been set to the AV mode. So you can only regulate your aperture range and your ISO range. You can't regulate the shutter speed range. The camera chooses the shutter speed range it will shoot at. That is the second mode. We also have the TV. The TV mode, in this area, you can only regulate the shutter speed and the ISO. You can't regulate your aperture range. Looking at the camera here, aperture range column is now blank. You can't regulate it. You can only regulate your shutter speed mode and your ISO mode for 3 exposure triangles. Then we have the P. The P is another mode of the camera where you can only regulate the ISO. The camera determines shutter speed range and the aperture range, but you are the one that determines your ISO range. That is another mode of this camera that makes it like a unique camera. The turning here again is now in A. The A stands for auto. In the auto mode, like as written in the screen, sense intensive auto. The auto mode, the camera determines the 3 exposure triangle to shoot at. It has changed to A in the screen. The camera determines the range of your ISO the range of your shutter speed, and the range of the aperture. You can't regulate any of them. The camera determines it depending on the environment the camera is actually shooting at, and depending on other factors which I'm going to talk about as time goes on, that makes the camera an amazing camera. So changing your mode, you can change from here. So I brought it back to the manual mode. The reason why I push it at the manual mode is so you can be able to regulate how high your ISO will be and how high your shutter speed will be, or how high or how low your aperture range will be. So you can regulate your 3 exposure triangles and actually get something amazing. This is our manual mode. Now, in this side of the camera here, pressing here, you can set your different parameters by tapping in any of the screen. You can tap, if you tap in the ISO range, you can increase your ISO. You press the back button. If you type the F, you can increase your or reduce your shutter speed. Press the back button. If you tap the here 1/4, you can increase or reduce your shutter speed. Press the back button. Then if you tap here, there's what is known as exposure compensation in every camera. When we talk about exposure compensation, we are talking about you regulating the brightness and the darkness of your image. For example, as a photographer or as a cinematographer, most time you want to shoot an image, and because of how low the light is, you're actually not going to capture a bright image. It's all on your exposure compensation. So to set your exposure compensation, when you press this button, you tap it, being a touchscreen camera, or you press the set, which is the enter. So then you regulate your exposure compensation. One thing you must understand about an exposure compensation, you will have the darker and you have the brighter. So when you increase your exposure compensation, the 2 arrows will be going to the same side. That will give you a darker and a brighter image. That's why most times you see a photographer or cinematographer shooting, and the person can capture a dark image and also capture a bright image at the same time, due to higher light and lower light. Is based on the exposure compensation. So it's better the exposure compensation is at the 0 level. At the 0 level, you actually have a brighter and more organized image. That's one amazing thing about the exposure compensation, also written here. Then here we have what is known as the drive mode. In the drive mode, we have different attributes. We have single shooting. We have high speed continuous. When we talk about single shooting, we are talking about a shot at a point, at one particular point in time. When you shoot with this camera at that point, with one single distance, so it's going to trigger only once. When we talk about the high speed continuous, that means when you shoot with the camera, you capture numerous, you capture a picture more than once, like it will be a continuous shoot. Then we have the low speed continuous, the silent single shooting, and so on. So all depends on actually what you want to get as a photographer or as a cinematographer. Then we have what is known as image qualities. When we talk about an image quality in the camera, we are talking about what we like to shoot on. We have the RAW and we have the JPEG. In subsequent tutorials, I will make us understand the difference between a RAW footage and a JPEG footage. But in setting your RAW footage or your JPEG footage for this camera, tapping here, RAW simply means the RAW, and here is the JPEG. A lot of photographers love shooting at JPEG, a lot of photographers love shooting at RAW. But one thing about the 2 different image qualities is that RAW gives you more detailed picture than a JPEG image. In subsequent tutorials, I will make us understand the difference between a RAW footage and a JPEG footage. And so, if you want to shoot in your RAW, you can shoot. But one unique thing about this camera is that you can shoot in RAW and also shoot in JPEG. That means when you set your camera to a RAW image quality, it will also give you a JPEG image. Now left for you to choose between editing a raw image or editing a JPEG image. That is the amazing thing about this camera too. So let's dive into the menu tab of this camera. This is the menu tab of this camera. Okay, I'm on my menu tab. So this is the menu tab. Like I told you, it's a touchscreen camera. I can actually regulate here through the distance or through the touchscreen. But I would love to regulate through the touchscreen so as to make the tutorial more lively. This is the menu type of this camera, and the first thing we have here is the camera icon. Number one here we have the image quality. Like the image quality, talk about the RAW or the JPEG. So I set it at the RAW mode, and I also set it at the JPEG mode. Removing the JPEG mode, I have to tap here. Tapping here, the dash simply means I won't actually shoot in a JPEG. I will just shoot in a RAW footage. But tapping here simply means I'm shooting on a JPEG and a RAW footage. But I love shooting on a RAW footage because it gives me more image details in editing my image. It's more preferable shooting in RAW than shooting in JPEG. We have the image preview, we have the beep, we have the release shutter with that card. The second part is the exposure compensation I talked about then too. With the exposure compensation, you can increase the darkness or the brightness of the image, but it's preferable for you to be at the 0 number, which makes you have a more brighter image when capturing. Then here is the ISO speed setting. The ISO speed setting, tapping it, you see ISO speed, range for stills, auto range, and mini shutter speed. The ISO speed here is 400. So tapping it here, I can increase it or reduce my ISO level depending on what kind of ISO I want to shoot and the kind of image I actually want to get. Here I have the auto lighting optimizer. Is always a disabled part of the camera. The white balance of this camera is another thing we have to understand. This is where to actually get your white balance. The white balance, but you can also get it here. Here we have what is known as WB. WB also stands for white balance, but it can't actually show in here because I've actually activated it in the menu tab. This is the white balance here. These are different attributes in the white balance. We have the daylight, we have the shade, we have the cloudy, we have the white fluorescent light, we have the flash, we have the custom, and we have the color temperature. The K here stands for color temperature. You can either increase your color temperature or reduce your color temperature depending on the kind of footage you want to get. And we have the custom white balance, we have the WB, we have the color space. The top part here we have the image style. The image style we have the auto, the standard, the portrait, the landscape, and so on. But I'm shooting at an auto image style. Long exposure noise is disabled, and high exposure rate standard. Dust, delete, distance, and other things. The fourth part we have the interval timer. We have other things here. Here we have the AF method, that is the autofocus method. Now we have the autofocus method. You can choose to shoot in tracking or flexi zone or flexi zone AF depending on actually what you want to shoot on. We have the touch shutter, we have the grid display, it's on off mode, we have the aspect ratio, we have the exposure simulation. Then here we have the silent LV shoot, and we have the metering timer depending on what actually we want to get. Then the AF stands for autofocus. Then the autofocus here we have a case 1, we have case 1, we have case 2, we have case 3. Now the case 1 here is versatile multi-purpose setting. We have case 2, case 3, case 4, case 5, and case 6. So all depends on actually what you want to get. Can depend on the kind of auto. Can also depend on the kind of auto this thing you want to actually shoot on. These are other amazing attributes in this camera that using it you begin to understand it. Then the third part here, we have the protect image, we have the rotate image. If you want to rotate your image, you can actually use here. Look at my image. I'm going through my images. I'll go back to my menu. If I click my rotate image, my image will prompt out and I can actually rotate it. I can see my image, then I can set, are you seeing it? Setting the image, you can rotate it the way you choose to. But then going back, use the manual mode. Protect image is just like protecting your image. Select the image you want to protect or all images in the folder and protect it so it won't actually get damaged or won't get corrupt. Okay, we won't get corrupt because image actually gets corrupt. Then erase images. Select and erase images, all images in folder or images on the card. I want to talk about select and erase images. They want to select the image actually want to erase. Going to the distance, so anyone you want to erase, you come here and tap the delete tab and it erase. When we talk about erase, we simply means delete. Then when we talk about all images in folder, we're talking about removing all images, that is deleting all images in the folder. Then all images on card. Then, but when we talk about all images in the folder, that simply means there's an image in a particular folder. So we'll select the folder and also delete the images in that particular folder. So as to have more space in the card, depending. Then all images on card. We're talking about removing or deleting all images in the SD card that was inserted into this camera. So it depends on actually what you want to get. We have print order. In case you want to print an image, how do you want to print it? Do you want to select the image you want to print, or you want to print all images? All depends on the parameter, all depends on what you actually want to achieve. We have the image copy, we have the raw image processing, we have the image copy. No card in image, we have the image copy. Also, all depends on what you want to do. We have the cropping. In case you want to crop your image, we have the resize. In case you want to resize your image, you set it here. If you want to crop your image, if you want to slideshow your image, if you want to transfer your image from one distance from the camera to another distance, you go do it through here. Then here we have the highlight and so on. So most of these menu tabs are not mostly used most time. Why most times also used depending on actually what you want to get. Because one thing about these cameras is the more you use the camera, the more you know how unique it is to give you the function you desire. Then here we have record function card. We have file number. We have file name. File number is continuous. We always set as continuous. Then file name. File name is to name your file. The 5J78 is the file name. For example, the image in this file name here, 5J78, simply means when I take my card to the system to copy out this image, the image will be showing in 5J78 before it shows 2231, or it shows 4-digit numbers after showing this 5J78. So that is what it simply means, the image name. Okay, so you can actually change user setting for one or change user setting for two. So that's what this image name simply means. But we'll press the format card. The format card simply means to clear your card. This is actually a careful place for every photographers or cinematographers, because losing a clear image when you are not actually copying to your system is a dangerous risk that many cameramen won't actually want to take. Here is other things: exposure level increment, ISO setting increment, bracketing and so on, number of bracket shots, safety shift, all depends on actually what we want to get. Okay, then that is for the manual button. Here is the info button of this camera. To preview your image, you tap the image preview button here. So I'm using my touch screen. I'm actually going through the videos. These are videos clips in this camera. These are various video clips inside the card of this camera. Now, to get the information, this info button tells you the information about this video. That is, the ISO range is short, the shutter speed range is short, or the aperture range is short, so as to know what to do at every other point in time. Now when you tap the info range, the info range here. You see that this video was shot in 1/16 shutter speed. The aperture range was 2.0 and the ISO range was 800. So most times cinematographers or videographers would love to know the different exposure settings they used to shoot this particular image or video, depending on what you want to get again, because most likely actually shoot a shoot and you actually want to get the same setting for your exposure triangle. So in doing so, you can actually go to your info of your camera by previewing the image and know what you actually shot on. That is the info button for you. Then we have this button here. It gives you a dual view of your clip. Pressing it again gives you a single view of your clip. Then here is the zoom button. The zoom button helps you zoom into your image or zoom out from an image. For example, I have some different image going through here. I have images in this card. I can actually zoom in using the screen of the camera. I can zoom in to see if the image was actually shot on a good focus range or if the image is actually blurry. I can also use the zoom tab here to zoom in and zoom out. Pressing it once, I've zoomed in. Then pressing it again, I've actually zoomed out. The preview button is here. Pressing here, you can actually preview what is actually inside the card of this camera. Then to delete, in case I want to delete this image, this is the delete button. Pressing it and I'll see cancel and I will see erase. Once I tap the erase tab, this image will automatically delete. But if I press the cancel tab, the image will still remain where it is. Then when capturing an image, remember like I told you the last time, this image can actually shoot on live view. As you can see here, this is a live view. It's a live view. I don't need to look to the viewfinder of this camera. So here I can also set my aperture here or my shutter speed. This is my aperture. This is my ISO. I can set it here. That is one amazing thing about using a touchscreen camera. I just love touchscreen cameras. I love it so much because it makes work more easier for me than actually going through all these buttons stuff. I just have to hit the script and get what I actually want. Now there's another thing I want you to understand about this camera before we call it a wrap in this tutorial. Pressing here again removes it from live view, so you have to look to the viewfinder. Pressing here again gives you a live view kind of pictures. Remember I told you we have a DSLR camera and a mirrorless camera, and this is a DSLR camera, not a mirrorless camera. These are the settings for this camera to actually get an image footage. We have video settings for this camera. We have the way we tweak our video setting. Go change the video mode you use here to actually change to your video, which you can see now. Then to change back to your image mode. Today we are just discussing the image mode of this camera. In the next tutorial about the features of Canon 5D Mark IV camera, I'll make us understand the different parameters that makes up the video mode of this camera in case you want to use the camera to actually take a video footage. This camera is an amazing camera for taking video footage because of the amazing parameters it has in it, which we are going to exploit in the next tutorial on the diary of a cameraman. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for actually staying true with me on the different features that makes up a Canon 5D Mark IV camera tune, where I exploit the different features and the functions and the importance of those features. I believe you actually learned something from this tutorial. If you have any question, you can use the comment section. If you haven't watched the part 1 of the features that makes up a 5D Mark IV camera, you can click the link on my comment section so as to go to the part 1 clip of the features of a Canon 5D Mark IV camera. And again, if you haven't hit the subscription button to support this channel and also make it keep growing, hit the subscription button and like the video, share the video to keep getting amazing episodes from this amazing, incredible YouTube channel. Thank you so much and see you next time in the diary of a cameraman.